Okay, so maybe you're thinking about becoming a nursing lecturer, huh? It's a chance to really shape the future of nursing, inspiring that next generation.
It's taking everything you know, everything you've learned at the bedside, and turning it into like these engaging lessons for, well, for those eager nursing students.
And I know it can feel like a big jump going from bedside to lecture hall, right? So that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're diving into the world of nursing lecturers using this awesome career guide from RoleCatcher.
What's cool about this guide is that it doesn't just tell you about the job, like a boring old job description.
Mm-hmm.
It actually breaks down the whole career path, all the different stages you go through, from entry level all the way up to like
Yeah, they'll
principal
literally
nursing
just like
lecturer.
they're giving you a sneak peek behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
You get to see what your future could look like.
And that's what's so valuable about RoleCatcher's approach. They don't just list out responsibilities. They actually show you what each stage really entails, like the day-to-day, the skills you need.
So the guide really emphasizes hands-on experience, which, I mean, makes sense, but like, what does that actually mean for someone who's thinking about this as a career?
So imagine you're teaching your students about post-operative care. Right. Well, someone with that hands-on experience can say, okay, here's what the textbook says, but in the real world,
Hmm.
like here's what can actually happen, and here's how I've dealt with it.
Like, you can read a cookbook, or you can actually get your hands dirty in the kitchen.
Exactly.
And speaking of practical skills, the guide also mentions these certifications, specifically the Certified Nurse Educator, that's the CNE.
Right. And this isn't just about adding a bunch of letters after your name. It tells employers that you've gone above and beyond to, really master the art of teaching nursing.
Yeah, it's a whole other level of like, I know what I'm doing. It's like that extra credibility that says, I'm not just a nurse who teaches, I'm a nurse educator.
Hmm.
But let's be real for a sec. I mean, landing a job as a nursing lecturer, there are probably some tough interviews, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this guy doesn't mess around. He gets into some seriously tough questions you might get asked, like, how do you make sure your teaching is culturally sensitive, inclusive, that kind of thing.
Because it's not just about knowing the material, right? It's about knowing how to connect with students from all different walks of life.
And that's where this interview practice tool from RoleCatcher can be a lifesaver. They have this tool where you can practice answering these hard questions, record yourself, and then get this, you get AI-powered feedback.
Whoa, seriously. It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket. So not only do they like break down the whole career path for you, they actually give you the tools to nail the whole application process.
And here's the kicker, right? It's not just about you finding them. It's about them finding you.
Wait, what do you mean?
Employers are using RoleCatcher too. They're actively searching for people whose skills and experience match up with, what they're looking for.
Okay, that is seriously cool. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I think it's worth like really defining what a nursing lecturer does. I mean, our listeners probably have a pretty good idea, but
Yeah, at its core, a nursing lecturer creates and delivers those engaging lessons, develops assessments, and guides nursing students. They're experts who are passionate about teaching and dedicated to shaping the future of healthcare.
so not just like some boring lecturer droning on at a podium. It's about creating this dynamic learning environment. But it's not just about teaching, right? This guide also talks about research.
Yeah, and research is super important for a nursing lecturer. They're contributing to the field, pushing boundaries, and discovering new stuff that'll ultimately help patients.
So it's this blend of academic research with a real-world impact. That's pretty awesome. And speaking of impact, RoleCatcher gives these examples, these career profiles. I really like those.
Yeah, the profiles really show what a career in nursing education could look like. You see people at all these different levels, from entry level all the way to, like we said, principal nursing lecturer. They share their journeys and insights.
It's like a sneak peek into the future. You see what you can achieve, where you can go with this.
And the thing that really struck me was that they all talked about this need for continuous learning. Even the really experienced nursing lecturers are always looking for ways to, learn more.
Makes sense. Nursing is constantly changing, right? Got to keep up.
Exactly.
Okay, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This career path usually means getting that doctorate degree. I know when some people hear doctorate, they're like, whoa, that's intense. It's a big commitment, no doubt. But the guide does a good job explaining why it's so important, especially for this career path. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you have to remember, nursing lecturers are expected to be like the experts in their field. It's not just teaching what's in the textbook, right? They're doing research, Writing articles, presenting at conferences. A doctorate gives you the foundation for that level of, like, academic rigor.
It's the difference between just knowing something and really understanding it.
Right. Plus, in academia, those credentials open doors. You're more likely to land leadership roles, get those research grants. Even your earning potential can be impacted by having that doctorate.
Okay, so a doctorate is key, but the guide also gets into specific subjects that are super relevant. Obviously, nursing is a big one, but it's not the only one, is it?
Definitely not. Having a solid background in things like, healthcare administration, biology, psychology, even sociology can be really valuable.
It's like connecting the dots, right? Seeing how nursing fits into the bigger picture of healthcare.
Exactly. And we can't forget about research methodology. Knowing how to design studies, analyze all that data, present your findings, that's crucial for any nursing lecturer.
It's like adding those essential tools to your teaching toolkit. Now, something I'm curious about, we talked about how important it is to stay updated on, like, all the latest advancements in nursing. And this guide has a whole section dedicated to knowledge and learning. What were some key takeaways there?
Basically, becoming a nursing lecturer, it's not the finish line. It's more like the starting line for, a lifetime of learning. Nursing is constantly changing, so you have to change with it.
I can see how that would be exciting, but also kind of intimidating, you know? How do they recommend you actually stay on top of everything?
Well, they suggest attending workshops, conferences, those kinds of things. It's a chance to, like, get up to speed on new advancements, network with other professionals, learn from the best.
It's kind of like a booster shot for your career.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to be a big event. You can subscribe to nursing education journals, check out reputable websites, even participate in online forums. There's so much out there.
Yeah, it's like information overload, right? I can picture it now, those late nights, stacks of journals, highlighter in hand.
Oh, tell me about it. But you're right, those journals are full of great info. They have deep dives into current research, new trends in nursing education, even opinions on the challenges facing the field.
Okay, so you've got the knowledge, you're staying current, but now you've got to land that interview. I bet the guide has some good stuff on that.
It does. They give you a really solid breakdown of common nursing lecturer interview questions, and they even link to more in-depth guides on their website. And trust me, some of these questions are designed to make you think on your feet.
Oh, I bet. What's like a real brain teaser they might throw at you?
How about this? How do you use technology in your teaching to, really get students engaged?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. It's not just about knowing PowerPoint, right? It's about using tech to create a really effective learning experience.
Right. Or they might ask, tell me about a time you had to adapt your teaching style for a diverse group of students. They want to see that you're flexible, empathetic, that you can connect with people from all backgrounds.
Those are some tough questions. It's clear they want more than someone who just memorized a textbook. They want to see your experience, your creativity, your passion for teaching.
And that's why preparing is so important. The guide really stresses this. Come up with thoughtful answers that are personal to you, not just generic responses. It even suggests practicing with a friend or mentor to really get your delivery down.
It's almost like prepping for a performance, right? Except instead of a stage, it's a classroom. Okay, so you totally rock that interview and land the job. Congrats. What happens next?
Well, this is where that whole breakdown of career stages comes in handy. It's like a sneak peek into your future.
Okay, I love that. So walk me through those early days. Someone's just starting out as a nursing lecturer. What can they expect?
The guide calls it the entry-level stage, and it really emphasizes that even if you aced those academic hurdles, nothing beats real-world experience. Think working as a clinical nurse, maybe being a nurse educator in a clinical teaching environment. It's about bridging that gap between the theoretical and the practical.
It's one thing to like teach someone about wound care from a textbook. It's a whole other thing to have actually done it, in a busy ER.
Exactly. That experience just brings this level of, like, authenticity to your teaching. Plus, you could share those real-world stories and insights. People remember those.
Okay, so you've put in the time, you've got the experience, so how do you move up that academic ladder?
So the guide talks about moving from, say, junior nursing lecturer to senior nursing lecturer. And a big part of that is this idea of continuous professional development.
Never stop learning, right? What does that actually look like, though?
It could be anything from pursuing, more advanced degrees in nursing education, maybe specialize in curriculum development or online teaching, something like that. Or maybe you get additional certifications in things like simulation-based learning or, even healthcare leadership.
So it's about staying ahead of the curve and showing that you're really dedicated to growing as an educator.
Exactly. And again, it's not just about getting more letters after your name. It's about expanding your skills and your understanding of nursing education. The guide also talks a lot about getting involved in research projects.
Right, because we talked about how important that is for nursing lecturers, but it's not just about advancing the field as a whole, right? There are personal benefits too.
Oh, for sure. When you're doing research, you get to really dive into an area that you're passionate about.
Okay.
You're adding to our understanding of nursing. It also boosts your credibility as an expert, which can lead to some really cool leadership opportunities down the road. Plus, let's be real, having those publications on your CV looks good.
Yeah, those publications are like gold stars in academia. But it's not all about individual achievements, right? The guide also stresses the importance of networking. What does that even look like in the world of nursing education?
Well, remember those nursing education conferences we talked about? They're like massive meetups for nurse educators. You got presentations, workshops, tons of networking opportunities.
It's where you go to get inspired.
Yeah, exactly. And don't underestimate online communities. Those are huge too. The guide mentions joining online forums, those kinds of things. You can connect with other nurse educators, share ideas, get support.
Like having a 247 brainstorming session.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can do it from anywhere. Oh, and another thing they mention is creating an online portfolio or a website.
So, like a digital resume, but like way cooler.
Right. You can really showcase your work, your teaching style, your research, even testimonials. It's all right there.
It's like saying, this is me, this is what I'm all about.
Exactly. It's a great way to stand out, especially now, with nursing education constantly evolving.
Okay, so we talked about networking, online presence. Now, what about those different stages in a nursing lecturer's career? Can you walk us through those again?
Sure. You usually start as an entry-level nursing lecturer, right? You're still learning the ropes, helping out with lectures and exams, maybe even getting some lab experience. Very hands-on.
It's like an apprenticeship, but for teaching.
Yeah, exactly. And then you might move up to a junior nursing lecturer. You start to take on more responsibility. Maybe you're designing your own lectures, developing assignments, maybe even doing some research with senior colleagues.
You're really starting to make a name for yourself.
Right. Then there's senior nursing lecturer. That's where you really step into a leadership role. You might be developing curriculum, mentoring those junior lecturers, heading up research projects, having more of a say in how things are done.
Wow, you're shaping the future of nursing.
And finally, you reach the top principal nursing lecturer. You're basically running the whole show, making sure the nursing education program is, top-notch, leading teams, managing budgets, working with healthcare organizations, even influencing those big picture policy decisions.
Talk about leaving a legacy. Now, we keep mentioning the Certified Nurse Educator certification. That's the CNE, right? What does that actually entail, and why is it so important for someone who wants to be a nursing lecturer?
So the CNE is a nationally recognized certification. It basically says you've got specialized knowledge in nursing education. To get it, you need a master's degree in nursing, a current RN license, a certain amount of clinical teaching experience under your belt, and you have to pass this pretty intense exam.
So yeah, you don't just get it overnight.
Not at all. But it shows employers that you're serious, that you have what it takes to be a great nurse educator.
It's that extra level of, I've got this. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something else the guide talks about. It's something everyone thinking about this career path should consider, the pros and cons. Let's start with the good stuff. What are some of the most rewarding parts of being a nursing lecturer?
Well, the guide talks about how incredibly fulfilling it is to shape the future of nursing, to be a mentor for that next generation. And you're also helping to advance nursing as a profession through research?
So it's both intellectually stimulating and personally rewarding.
Absolutely. And the job market for nursing lecturers is really strong right now because nurses are in such high demand. Plus, there's lots of room to grow in your career, and the salary is competitive.
That's awesome. But like any job, there are downsides too. What are some of the challenges the guide mentions?
Well, it can be emotionally demanding. You're working with students, and you're invested in their success. Sometimes you're dealing with students who are struggling, and that can be really tough.
It's a lot of responsibility. You're not just teaching, you're guiding them.
Right. And the hours can be long, especially during those busy times, preparing lectures, grading, research, conferences.
It's a labor of love.
For sure. And, of course, anytime you work in academia, there's going to be some politics, bureaucracy. That can be frustrating.
Definitely not always easy, but it sounds like the rewards can be huge. So, to wrap things up, if you're passionate about nursing, you love to teach, and you want a career that's challenging and rewarding, becoming a nursing lecturer might just be the perfect fit for you. We've covered a ton of information today, from the qualifications and the all important doctorate to the interview process and what it takes to really excel in this role. But more importantly, we hope this deep dive has given you a clearer picture of what this career path looks like and maybe even inspired you to take that next step.